Hey there, it's Nina here with Walla Stamping. Thanks so much for joining me today in my craft room. This is a very simple to make card and it's absolutely beautiful, and this is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. The supplies that you're going to need for this card are actually very minimal. All you're going to need is a card base, and I've got basic black here, 8.5 by 5.5. I scored and folded it at 4 1/4. A piece of very vanilla that's 5 1/4 by 4, and it's going to be our card front. And then I just have a couple of scraps of some basic black and very vanilla, big enough to do your sentiment with. Now this one I actually used Whisper White, but I decided to go with very vanilla for the card today. We're also going to be using our scrap of very vanilla to cut this little butterfly out with as well. So the main thing that I'm going to be showing you today with this card is how to get dimension when you're using your Stampin' Blends markers. Now you're also going to want to have some layering ovals, and I'm going to be using a couple of brand new stamp sets today. I've got a little bit of ink on that one. This one is called Abstract Impressions, and this one is called Serene Garden. And then I have the Garden Scene Framelits dies that coordinate with the Serene Garden stamp set. Okay, so I've got my Stamparatus here. I've got my card front very vanilla in there, and I've lined up the stamp where I'm going to want it to go. And I can tell by looking that I don't really have this perfectly straight. So I'm going to lay that back down, make sure that it's still in the area that I want it to be in, and it is. I'm going to be using my Memento black ink to stamp this, and the reason that I'm using my Stamparatus is because I want to make sure that I can stamp this more than once if the first time I stamp it I don't get a really good impression, because this is a pretty good size stamp, and as you can see right there, it's not super dark. So I'm going to stamp this a second time. Much better. Then I'm just going to take my card, flip that around, and stamp it a second time in this opposite corner. Now I have my sentiment and my butterfly on my Stamparatus, and I'm going to get both of those stamped at the same time. Now the next thing I'm going to do is some coloring. You may see that I've got a little smudge right there. I had some ink on my fingers, but I'm just going to let that be because this is just a sample card and I'm not going to be sending it to anyone, so I'm not going to worry about that smudge. So let me show you what all the colors are that I'm going to be using today. Alrighty, let me get these in order. Okay, so for the flowers, I'm going to be using the light and dark Daffodil Delight, the light Pumpkin Pie, the dark Calypso Coral, and a little bit of my bronze or my brown. For the leaves, I'm going to be using the light and dark Old Olive and some dark Night of Navy. So this does take me a little bit of time to do. So during the coloring process, I'm actually just going to play some music for you and let you watch me color, but I want you to notice as I'm going through how I use some of these darker shades in certain areas of the flowers and the leaves to get that depth. So all of my coloring is done now, at least as far as this goes, and I'll do the butterfly here in just a minute. But as you can see, I started out with some of my dark brown and my dark calypso coral, and I filled in some of the areas which would be more shaded because I'm seeing my light source coming down from the top. And then for the lighter colors, I just added in my pumpkin pie and my 2 daffodil delights. And then for the leaves, I started out and I used my Night of Navy in the areas where I knew that I wanted the darkest areas to be. Then I moved on to my dark old olive and then finished it off with the light old olive. Now, since you've seen me do that, the butterfly is pretty much straightforward. It is not any special shadowing or anything like that. So I'm going to color that off camera and then come back and we will start assembling the card. The next step is to get our framelits and cut out our ovals for the sentiment medallion and then cut out the butterfly. Now I like to cut mine out with the blade facing up instead of facing down. So we're going to get these run through the Big Shot. And I mean, cutting out this sentiment with the layering ovals is pretty straightforward. It's nothing spectacular about it. It's just pretty easy to do. So if you have the ovals or the circles or the squares framelits, I actually have a class that I think that you would really, really love. It's called the Getting More Out of Your Framelits. In this class, I show you how to use product that you probably already have, and you'll make 3 absolutely stunning boxes along with 3 fabulous cards, and all of them incorporate the layering circles, ovals, and squares. So it's kind of stepping outside the box a little bit and giving you the opportunity to stretch the framelits that you've probably already got in your tools in your craft room and make them go a little bit further for you and get more use out of them, as opposed to doing just your basic things such as this. So if you've ever considered using your framelits or wanting to be able to use your framelits in a way that is not just your basic everyday same old, then the Getting More Out of Your Framelits class is probably something you're going to want to do. If you have any questions about it, all you got to do is just send me an email. My email address is nina@wallastamping.com, and just address that to me and ask me any questions that you might have. I'll tell you how you can get it. So all I've done at this point is just put my medallion together, attach that to the front of my card. I'm going to throw a couple of mini dimensionals on the back of this butterfly and get that stuck down right over here to the side. Then take my card base and attach my card front to my card base, and this card is finished. So there's the 2 versions, the Whisper White and the Very Vanilla. Depends on if you want a card that's more bright or if you want a color that's a little more subdued. You could make the choice either way. So I hope that you have enjoyed this tutorial today, and if you like it and you want to see more of them, then make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember that a list of all of the supplies along with their measurements are going to be at the end of the video, and they're linked in the description that's below the video. You can get that instruction sheet over on my blog at wallastamping.com. While you're there, make sure you don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. That way, when I have classes such as the Getting More Out of Your Framelits class, if you are one of my email subscriber family members, you know about those things before anybody else, because I treat my email family very, very special. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that I've inspired you to create, and I will talk to you soon.